Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah. I am the creator behind Hannah Jean Stitchery, and today I have another knitting podcast for you. This is episode number 4. It has been about 5 or 6 months since I've last done a podcast, so I feel like I'm a little rusty. I might talk a little fast because I'm super excited, and another thing to excuse is it is currently quiet time. So my son is in his room. So if you hear banging on the wall, it's him. He's fine. He's just playing in his room. If you can hear him yelling, also he's fine. He's just playing. With all of that said, let's get into this podcast, and we'll start with my finished objects. The first one that I have, I'll just have to show a picture, or if I can find some video of it. I don't know if I can, but I finished the Magic Number blanket by Helen Cosgrove Davies, and this was a baby blanket that I knit for a mom that is expecting her second little boy in a couple weeks now. So it was a baby shower gift, and she loved it. I got to speak with her after she opened it. She loves it. Her other son loves it too. So I may be making another one so her other son can have a blanket. The yarn I used was Hobby Lobby Baby Bee Sweet Delights, and there are 3 colors. There's baby blue, or baby's blue, angel, and Sunkisses, and the yarn is a DK weight. And it is a 60% acrylic and 40% polyamide. It's super soft and just squishy and the perfect baby blanket. This pattern goes to a 22-inch square. That's what it's written for. And the idea is that you take 3 DK hanks of yarn or skeins of yarn, and you knit to a certain percentage, and then you start doing the color switching, and then you knit to the percentage and keep going back and forth. I did not do that. I don't remember how big the blanket was when I ended, but I know that I added, I think it was 40 extra increases by the time I needed to decrease, just because I felt like when I got to the numbers the pattern gave, I was like, ooh, this is a little small. So I went ahead and just increased 40 stitches, and it turned out very cool, very perfect, and just like the correct size for a baby blanket. So very pleased with that knit. It was super quick. I think it took me like maybe 3 weeks of off and on knitting, because I have 2 babies of my own, and well, I have a toddler and a 1-year-old, so not a lot of knitting time, but I did get it done fairly quick. So that was that project. Very happy with it. My next finished object is another blanket, and it is a temperature blanket, and it is way too big to hold it up in the screen, but it is a temperature blanket for my baby girl's first year of life, which is so cool. So I started this when I really did not know much about knitting still, and I did not use a pattern, so I just cast on 365 stitches and then of course there's 365 rows. This thing is massive and very heavy. So let me tell you the yarn. I used Hobby Lobby's. I love this yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It's like the craft yarn. And I used, I think it was 10 different colors, all pinks and purples. And then, yeah, I just assigned like, I think it was a 10-degree range for each color. And I held it double, so 2 yarns per day, but it's 1 row per day. So 1 color was for the high temperature of the day, and 1 color was for the low temperature of the day. And yeah, it's just straight stockinette for the most part. I did a garter stitch border. So 3 weeks at the bottom were garter stitch, then I switched to stockinette, and then the last 3 weeks I did the garter stitch, and then on the outside, like 13 and 13, I did a garter stitch on the sides. So for the most part, it is stockinette stitch, and it's massive. Little girl will not be able to use this blanket until she is a fully grown human being, because it is absolutely just so heavy. It's like a weighted blanket basically, and I did not mean for that to happen, but that is what happened. Let's see, I don't know the actual measurement because it is so big and I have to lay it out on the floor in the living room to be able to see the whole size of it. I believe it could fit a king bed, at least widthwise. Maybe not lengthwise, but definitely widthwise. It fits on our bed, which is a queen, and it drapes over quite a bit. So, yeah, I am very excited. That took me quite some time to work on it. So little girl is 1 year and 2 months now. I finished it 1 year and maybe a month. But I did not start this exact way. It's over there. That's what I'm looking at. I didn't start this exact way of doing this pattern or this blanket until early this year. So she was coming up to 12 months by the time I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're doing stockinette stitch, because I originally was doing a chevron stitch, but I didn't love it and it took forever, and I was doing 2 rows per day. It was just too much, so I decided to rip it all back, and I only had probably 1/4 of the year made at that point when I ripped it back. But then I like took my time on starting it again because I was just like, oh, this was a lot of work. I'm so glad it is done. It's very, very, very pretty. So yeah, that is her temperature blanket, her first year of life temperature blanket. All right, so this next WIP, this next finished object is my last finished object, and I think, yes, it's right here. I can hold it up to you to show you. I do not have the ends weaved in. Of course, what's a finished object if it has ends weaved in? Anyway, so it is a blanket, super 70s, so cool. It is called the Sundance Granny Ripple Stitch Blanket by Jessica from Mama in a Stitch. I found this pattern through Taylor from the Wool Needles Hands podcast. She was doing her own version of this blanket, and she followed it much more closer to what the designer did. So originally it called for, what was it, the Lion Brand Mandala yarns, and you get 3 different colorways, I believe 1 skein of each, and you just make it. Like, you don't really do any color managing or anything like that. You just knit it up as it, and then it'll change colors as it goes. And it's very, very pretty. But when I saw Taylor showing me this, I was like, oh my goodness, I have the most perfect yarn to use. And it was this. This yarn is Hobby Lobby Yarn Bee, Sugarwheel, and Go-Go Cocoa. And I ended up using 6 skeins of yarn. I originally had 3 or 4, so I had to go buy just a few more skeins of yarn, and of course I'm okay with that. Hello, yarn shopping. But I found it interesting that I needed to have double the amount of yarn. I have not compared how many yardages each, different yarns have, but I do think also this is a worsted weight and the mandala yarns are DK weight, so that could have something to do with it. Either way, totally happy with how it turned out. I love the 70s vibe. just, it's just beautiful. And this is a 100% acrylic yarn. So that is my last WIP, and I have been slowly and steadily weaving in ends. There's not that many, but whenever I get a chance to work on stuff, I don't want to weave in ends. I want to actually knit, so, or crochet. So, yeah. Yes, that's a crochet blanket. The other two were knit. Okay. So let's move on to my WIPs. You guys, I think there's a cricket in here. And our cat has killed one cricket. He's doing his job very slowly. Okay, WIPs. Enough about crickets, WIPs. My first WIP that I have is another temperature blanket, another first year of life temperature blanket, and this is for my son. He is 3. So this one has been a long time coming, but I have not thought about doing this until my daughter was born. So anyway, I'm doing this temperature blanket, and we lovingly call it his BlueBlanky, because one day as I was planning out Abigail's temperature blanket, we were watching Clifford, and Clifford had a BlueBlanky, and so Cade was like, I want a BlueBlanky. So I was like, you know what, let's go. Went to Hobby Lobby, picked out a whole bunch of yarns. He picked out the colors, and so I'm making a temperature blanket for him that is going to be called the BlueBlanky. So I am crocheting this, and we're doing granny squares. Originally I was going to do a biased granny square blanket based off of TL Yarn Crafts blanket. She has a temperature blanket that's a bias on a bias, but I started kind of piecing it together, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to do that. I don't want to make triangles and squares. I just want to make squares. So now we're just gonna make a square granny square blanket. So here is what we're doing. We have 2 colors per day. We have the low of the day and the high of the day, and so that's how we're doing all 365 days. Well, that's a lie, because to be a square I can't do 365, so I haven't done the math yet, but I just know that there are going to be a few days that will border the whole thing. And then to make it a BlueBlanky, I'm gonna take another blue yarn that isn't one that we have going, and it'll be what I do on the very outside of everything. And let me get another blanket to show you what I mean. And then I will also be taking that blue and doing what I did here. It's how I connected this blanket. So that's what I'll be doing for his BlueBlanky. Let me show you that yarn, that blue. This is the blue color that I'll be using for the entire outside border and to connect all the pieces. So this is how it's going to be the BlueBlanky, because it's all a whole bunch of different colors. So yeah, and it's all the Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn, 100% acrylic, and again I have a temperature range of 10 degrees. So then I think there's 10 colors. There might have been more colors on my daughter's blanket, because we live in a climate now that has a little bit more range than what we had with our son. Anyway, that's really not here or there. So that is the temperature blanket. That is the first WIP. My second WIP is the Moonset Tee by Ozetta, and the yarn I'm using is a DK weight instead of a fingering weight. So it's been interesting doing this, because gauge and fit are different, and I'm totally okay with that, because when I first started this, I again wasn't very well versed in how to do how to figure out sizing and correctly adjusting the gauge, and on top of that I was using a different yarn weight than what it called for. I'm totally fine with it not being exactly like fitting exactly how the pattern says it should. Totally fine. It does fit. It's just a little tight. but it's all right. It's more like a fitted tee than a baggy, loose tee. So anyway, this yarn that I am using is the Yarn Bee Highlights in Teal Green. And it is a very sparkly yarn. I love this so much. Okay, so here, let me show you. I have most of the body done, and I have had to knit quite a bit more and lengthwise than what the pattern calls for. Possibly because I accidentally did the back in an extra large size, the front in a large size, and I really needed it to be extra large. So yeah, I think my chest is taking up a little bit of that length, but it's totally fine. I luckily have enough yarn to be able to do that. So yeah, I am this far. Still got some sleeves to put on there, still have some length to put on there, maybe like a couple more inches. I'll try it on again and see what happens. I'm not too stressed about it, but this is my Moonset Tee, and I'm very excited. Love this green sparkly yarn. So cool. So that is my second WIP, my Moonset Tee. My third WIP is my longest standing WIP, and the WIP that I have been I've ripped out quite a few times. This is the beginning of a cardigan for my husband. Now, if you've seen my other 3 podcasts, you probably are like, what? Why is it back to here? Because I ripped it out. So this yarn is, I believe, a Karen yarn, and I couldn't even tell you what the colorway is called because this is my 4th attempt at making a cardigan out of this yarn for my husband. Originally, I had made a crochet cardigan, but I was the one that wore it most. He didn't wear it because it was too heavy and too bulky. So I decided, okay, I'll rip it out and we'll do a knit cardigan. It'll take away some of the bulk, and it won't do a lot for the weight, but it'll do some. So I started making a cardigan that I don't even remember what it's called, but I got to a point and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't understand. So I just got frustrated, ripped it back, found this cardigan, which is the Hey Handsome knit cardigan by Nicole Winer from Yarnspirations, and I started making it, and I got the back done, I got the 2 fronts done, and I was working on a sleeve, and the whole time both my husband and I were like, this is really big, like it just looks way too big. It was way too big. So I ripped it out and we're starting fresh. We're knitting the size medium so it will fit like the size large. Kind of confusing, but that's what we're doing. So here's the start to that cardigan. It's lovely. So that's my 3rd WIP and longest standing WIP. My 4th WIP is a WIP that I didn't think I would start, but I did because of the yarn that I bought. It was an impulse buy and an impulse start. We went to Walmart, and as one does when you go to Walmart, you walk down the clearance aisle, and lo and behold, there was 3 skeins of yarn just sitting there on clearance. So I had to get it. I'll show you. This is the Mandala sequin yarn, and this color is Tanzanite. This one is Saphire. And this one is ALexandrite. So I'm holding them all together to do a cute little ombre effect. Here, let's just take a thumbnail really quick. I'm doing the Champagne Cowl by Shandy Agee, I'm not exactly sure, but from expressionsfiberarts.com. I found it on Ravelry. It's a free pattern, and it calls for a DK weight yarn, and I found DK weight yarn. So I originally went looking for a pattern to do. Instead of having a pattern in mind, I kind of did it the opposite way around. And like I said, it was an impulse. Here is the start. I have already messed up on the counting of the pattern repeat. And I've only done one. I also got it twisted at the very beginning. Yeah, I'm debating on tearing it out, finding a purse pattern, or just tearing it out and just waiting. I don't know, because I have a lot of whips. Did I need another whip? No. So that's this one. We'll see what I do with it. My last whip is a sock, and it is my very first sock. No, it's my very first fingering weight sock that I am doing. I have done. This is the Wonderment sock by Debbie Ford. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I'm doing the medium size for this sock. The yarn that I'm using is two different ones. One is for the main part of the sock, and the other is heels, toe, and cuff. So this is the heels, toe, and cuff that I'll be using. It's a very pretty pink. It is obviously fingering weight, and it is the Uni Merino Mini in the color Rose Finch by Universal Yarns. And so that's the heels, toe, and cuffs. And this one there we go. This one is from Wonderland Yarns, the Pigments of Imagination base in the color Mary Ann, I believe it's that order. And yeah, this is for the main part of the sock. This is what it looks like so far. I've done half of a pattern repeat for it. There we go. So that's what it looks like so far. Not too much to show, but enough. Oh, so this yarn, how I came across this yarn was by a make-along that I won the random selection drawing from. I won the prize from, and it was a make-along that was hosted by Frida and Mallory from the Strings Attached podcast, and they were doing a make-along that had us do any pattern from Two of Wands, and I chose to do the sophomore wrap, and yeah, I won. It was a very small little make-along. There were I think there was only like 5 participants. So they did a random selection, counted up, and I won. So they sent me this yarn, and I got it, and I was very excited. And then I had a lesson in self-control because I went to practice for praise team, came back, my son goes, "Mommy, I made a BlueBlanky!" And my heart dropped. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what I was gonna walk into. So I walked into the living room, and there was yarn for his BlueBlanky, and that yarn sitting on the couch, snipped up. So I took the time with my husband to unhank it all, tied it all in to one big old long string, and then re-raveled it up. So a couple lessons were learned in my case and in my son's case, and hopefully in my husband's case because he was watching him. And yeah, so that happened, but it's still completely usable yarn, so can't be too mad. At least not now. But it was just that that first day that I got it. I not even had it for 24 hours and then it got snipped, so that's okay. We're using it now and it's gonna be something beautiful. That is all of my whips. So there was quite a few, what, 4, 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whips. Okay, 3 finished objects and 5 whips. Wow. Okay, so do I have any acquisitions? Yes, I showed you the Mandala yarn, and the other is another Lion brand yarn, and it is the Woolies, Woolies Recycled. So, my goodness. Okay, it's just in a plain black color, and I saw this at Walmart, of course. Lion brand has put some new options into our Walmart, and Walmart is the most readily available place that I can go and get yarn. So I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, they just stocked this. It's brand new to me. There are 6 skeins. It's a weight 4, but I really think it's a DK weight. It's very, very light for a weight 4, or a worsted weight. But you get 196 yards for 3 ounces. Yeah, let me see. Okay, so this is their DK and Respect, and you get 262 yards for 3.5 ounces. So I don't know that math, but it's another Lion brand yarn. So I went ahead and just bought up all of what they had at the moment in black. They have a navy color, a red color, and a cream color. Super excited about that. I want to get the cream color. Also make something, I don't know, but so the plan for this is a shirt, most likely a Tolsta, if I can't find something different. Yeah, so I'm very excited about it. I just love the way it feels. It's a 80% recycled acrylic and 20% recycled wool. Very soft, and I'm very excited about it. So that's the only other acquisition I have. I guess I should go on to plans and end out this video. My first plan is to finish my Moonset Tee. I'm very close to being done with it. I think probably another, realistically, a week and a half. But wishful thinking, just a few days, of course. And then when that gets done, and also just kind of whenever I can pick it up, I want to work on the Hey Handsome knit cardigan, wherever I put that. Get quite a bit done on that. I want to get the back done fairly quickly, so then I can move on to another thing. But also in between everything that I do, I'm also going to be making some more squares for my son's temperature blanket. I need to block out the rest of the squares that I have for the first month that I've knit up or crocheted up. So I'm kind of doing a month at a time and then just throwing them in a bag, so that way they're all there, and then when I go to lay it all out, I could just look at the list of days and then lay them out. Yeah, so that is what the big plans are. So Moonset Tee, Hey Handsome knit cardigan, and the BlueBlanky temperature blankie. And then of course probably I will cast on something else. I'm gonna try to decide what to do with those Mandala yarns, if I want to continue to do that cowl or if I want to look for a purse pattern. I'm not sure, but that's the plans. We'll see what actually happens, because plans are just plans. So yeah, thank you for watching. This is it. That is all that I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.